Hey guys, welcome to Worst Take, where we take on the worst takes in sports. I'm your host, Quincy Carrier, and first things first, I want to acknowledge just the amazing job you guys did on that last video. We got 10,000 views, almost 600 likes, and that was amazing for me because when I uploaded that video, I had 200 subscribers, and now we have more than doubled that. So thank you guys for the support on that video. I really learned that a lot of people don't like Colin Cowherd. Now I want to give you guys what you want, and this week, we're going to talk about Hue Jackson. Hue Jackson has only not been the Browns coach for 2 games now at the recording of this video. And the Browns are only 2 wins away from tying his win total from the last 3 years. Now, who's to blame for this atrocious win-loss record? Well, maybe it's Sachi Brown who put the team together and purposely and openly made the team worse in order to maximize future assets. There's also Jimmy Haslam who we can blame for this. I mean, since he's owned the team in 2012, the team has just been ran like a complete circus show to the point to where it makes Dan Gilbert look like the reasonable and responsible owner in Cleveland. But in this equation of owner, GM, and people who are directly responsible for wins or losses, there's only one guy who was on the field for all those games, who made decisions that impacted all those games, and somehow doesn't think that this record has anything to do with him. And yes, that man is Hue Jackson. Now, on October 29th, the Browns fired Hue Jackson and Todd Haley. And while Todd Haley has done what 99% of coaches who get fired in disgrace in the middle of the season do, which is hide in a dark corner somewhere, make little noise, and hope nobody remembers that he coached in Cleveland, and then, silently pop up somewhere on somebody's coaching staff next year. Well, that's what most coaches do. That's what most sane people do. But Hue Jackson, he ain't going out like that. Hue Jackson, literally, the week after he got fired, went on any media outlet that would have him. I mean, this dude was on First Take on ESPN. He went and did every single show on Fox Sports 1. He did an interview for the Cleveland Plain Dealer, which is the local newspaper. And he would have even came on this show if I had like 300 more subscribers. Like, that's how desperate Hue Jackson was to get this narrative out to the public. And what is that narrative? What is Hue Jackson going on these shows and trying to tell the people this early, this quick after his firing? Why is he doing that? Well, here's why.
I think the part about internal discord, I think that was a little much over the top.
I didn't perceive it as internal discord. I think,
in your view, what caused the discord?
I don't think what Jimmy was saying was internal discord with the staff. That what was said that way about internal discord, which that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the number one reason why Hue Jackson's not sitting there.
Now, right there, internal discord, that's one of the things he really wants to hit on every interview he's been on about this situation, that the internal discord was overblown, which is almost baffling that if you look at just the facts around the situation, that he thinks people are going to buy that the internal discord was overblown. I mean, it was obvious since Hard Knocks. There's literal video evidence of it. Now, I mentioned earlier this narrative that Hue Jackson wants to paint, that he kept consistent with on every show and every interview that he did. And there are 4 main things he really wants you to believe. Now, the first thing he wants you to believe is that there wasn't really internal discord among the coaches. It was more or less a disagreement on offensive philosophy. The second reason he's trying to do this whole image rehabilitation tour that he's doing is he wants you to believe, even though he is legitimately the worst head coach of the modern era when you look at it record-wise. He has the second worst record. I think the guy who has the worst one coached in the 40s, so he doesn't count in the modern era. So Hue Jackson has the second worst record in football history as a head coach. But despite that, he still wants you to believe that one, he's a good coach, he's a great offensive coordinator, and that he deserves another shot to be a head coach in the NFL. Yes, Hue Jackson wants to do what he did to the Browns, to another team, probably the Bengals. And his fourth point contradicts itself, much like his interviews kind of contradict himself. He kind of just gets caught in a whole web of bullshit. And that fourth point is that when I had good ideas, they didn't listen to me. But when they listened to me, they made good decisions. You'll see what I mean by that later.
I think the part about internal discord, I think that was a little much over the top. I think there's more to it in my mind than that. I wanted people to know that I'm still the same football coach I was 3 years ago.
Now here's you hitting that first point. He wants you to believe that despite the fact that they fired both him and Todd Haley, there was no internal discord. Despite the fact that since the team has been taken over by Greg Williams, of all people, it has seemed much more stable of a situation. Despite the fact that not a single player seemed upset at all to hear that you or Todd Haley got fired. And despite the fact that in the official press release that the team sent out, it listed that you got fired because of internal discord. Despite that, Hue Jackson, you want me to believe that it wasn't that you had nothing to do with internal discord, that it was some made up, overblown thing. And why? Because you said it?
But to fire the head coach and the offensive coordinator, mentioned the two words internal discord. He's basically saying Hue Jackson and Todd Haley weren't on the same page. That's what I took from what Haslam said.
And I can respect you taking it that way because they did fire us both. But at the same time, I was there every day and saw it.
Yup. He wants us to believe this because he said it. Like, he has no evidence, no things that we can look back at retrospectively that will help back up his point. He just wants us to believe this because he was there and we wasn't. Well, guess what, Hugh? John Dorsey was there too. And now you ain't. So that says everything I need to know about internal discord when it comes to you.
People say that people get thrown under the bus. I am surprised and shocked when people say that. I really don't understand what that means.
Surprised and shocked about hearing that he threw somebody under the bus. Now that's a specific one that Hugh gets really sensitive about. I mean, even before he got fired. Because the first thing that we should mention is that Hue Jackson has an incredibly long history and rap sheet of throwing people under the bus, whether it's players, team executives, quarterbacks. He has thrown almost everybody under the bus. His own coaches, he's done it to. I mean, if you want examples, you can ask the 2011 Raiders team he coached. I mean, he has a very famous press conference where he throws everybody under the bus there. You can ask Sachi Brown if Hue Jackson throws people under the bus. You can ask both Deshaun Kaiser and Cody Kessler, who he blamed for going 0-16. You can even ask Todd Haley. Now, the complete irony in this whole situation is that Hue Jackson says he's surprised and shocked that people think he throws people under the bus in a series of interviews where in the same interview, in the same clips, he then goes on to throw his offensive coordinator, Todd Haley, under the bus because he felt like he wasn't as good as an offensive coordinator as Hue Jackson was. Like, the irony,
How much input, how much of a vote did you have in which way to go in that first round?
Oh, I did. We were a collaborative group. You know, we worked through it as an organization, made a decision to take Miles, which we truly believe was the right decision.
Did
know.
you?
Oh, yeah, I did.
So how much input and vote did you have on this year's quarterback decision?
A ton.
This is that weird contradictory pattern that he falls into. Because on this interview, when it comes to Baker Mayfield and Myles Garrett, two players that look like they're going to pan out, oh, he had a lot of say and a lot of input in those decisions. Like, he was involved. He was an important voice in the decision to draft Myles Garrett or Baker Mayfield. But then in the article with Mary Kay Cabot, he said that he liked Deshaun Watson. He liked Patrick Mahomes. He wanted to draft Carson Wentz number 2. Matter of fact, he said Carson Wentz blew him away and that he wanted to draft him the second they put him on the whiteboard because he did things that they never had seen before. But when it came to that decision and what to do with the second overall pick, he was powerless. And what the organization wanted to do which was trade back and accumulate more picks. So basically, what Hue Jackson is saying is that when it was a good decision, it was all me. I had 100% everything to do with that. But when it's a terrible decision that sent your franchise back 2 years and kind of set up a 0-16 season, they would have listened to me. We would have won more games. Now, isn't that everybody? And that kind of just says everything that I need to know about Hue Jackson, because personally, before he got fired, I was an advocate in keeping Hue and having consistency with the Browns, because that's what every single team in AFC North has, and we need to have that. And I felt like Hue Jackson was good enough. After how he handled himself after being fired and how much better the team has looked without Hue Jackson there, it kind of says everything that I need to know about him. And you know, there's a part of me that could and wanted to be compelled that maybe Hue Jackson does know what he's talking about with quarterbacks. But then you really got to evaluate what Hue Jackson's history with quarterbacks, because he has this reputation as a quarterback guru, but let's look at his decisions at quarterback that he has taken credit for. In 2011, he traded 2 number 1s to get Carson Palmer, who wasn't healthy and never helped the Raiders, but then went on to help the Cardinals. But when you trade 2 number 1s and you're the Oakland Raiders, you know, I don't think your objective is to make the Arizona Cardinals better for a couple years. So I would chalk that up as a fail. The second thing is what he doesn't talk about when he mentions how much he loved Carson Wentz all of a sudden. But you got to remember, that same year in free agency, the Browns fell in love with RG3. So Hue Jackson clearly thought he could rebuild RG3 and didn't feel the urgency or the need to draft Carson Wentz. But still, despite that fact being out there that he signed RG3 and wanted RG3 to start for that team that year, he's really putting it out there that he just fell in love with Carson Wentz and absolutely wanted to take him on number 2. The third thing, which is to me kind of the most unredeemable thing he did, because I can understand taking a chance on RG3 after the Redskins got rid of him. I can understand taking a chance on Carson Palmer. What I can't understand is trying to trade 2 second-round picks, one which ended up being Nick Chubb, but 2 second-round picks for A.J. McCarron. Yeah, Hue Jackson tried to do that. And thank God somebody in that front office, probably Sashi Brown, woke up, realized how bad of a deal it was, and decided to fall on that sword and rather waste those second-round picks that they got. Browns fans, I think we need to be more thankful for Sashi Brown. Now, I know he put together 2 terrible rosters that won 1 game in 2 years, and he put together an 0-16 roster. I'm not going to, let him get away with that. But he fell on that sword, saved us 2 first-round picks because A.J. McCarron would not have been worth it, and got fired in the middle of the season because of it, which gave the Browns a leg up to hire John Dorsey, which has kind of set us up in a pretty good situation going forward. So thank you, Sachi, because you're not the hero that Cleveland wanted. You're the hero that Cleveland needed. And you know what? Despite all of this, despite everything we discussed, I think Hue Jackson could have very easily kept his job to the end of the season and went out his way like he wanted to. But I think, and this is pure speculation now, I think Hue Jackson did something in that game in Pittsburgh that got him permanently fired. And what I believe happened, I'm going to have it on screen here. There's this weird situation kind of in the middle of the game where Tyrod Taylor put a helmet on and looked like he was going to go out, and it looked like he was going to bench Baker and put in Tyrod. And, my first reaction was maybe there was injury, but I don't remember seeing a blue tent, or there was no hit that made Baker go into concussion protocol. I had to get checked out. So it just looked like he was going to bench him. What I think happened is that Todd Haley kind of vetoed that whole move and just told Baker Mayfield to run out there, and Baker did.
Taylor was tossing the ball around during that break in the action. He's got a helmet on and he's got a poncho on.
And he's looking at the pad, so I would expect him to be coming into the game.
Yeah, guys, on that front, as you mentioned, Tyrod was taking some warm-up snaps and throws, but the good news is no athletic trainers around Baker Mayfield right now.
Why would I think Hue Jackson would pull that move off? Well, it's kind of Hue Jackson's signature move for anybody who's sat through the 2 awful seasons that he already coached. His first year when he had Cody Kessler and RG3 and I think Austin Davis on the roster, he kept yo-yoing each and every single one of them to the point where I think Kevin Hogan started a game and kept pulling guys and then putting them back out there and pulling them, putting back out there and ruining each quarterback's confidence. And then the next year they drafted Deshaun Kaiser in the 2nd round. And as soon as Deshaun Kaiser really starts struggling, I mean, he struggled. Hue Jackson pulled him, put in Cody Kessler, then pulled him, put in Kevin Hogan, and just kept yo-yoing the quarterbacks back and forth. And I think one of the things they discussed in the offseason was, hey, Baker Mayfield's the number 1 pick of the draft. Once you put him in there, there's no yo-yoing him. And Hue Jackson understood that, but he had Tyrod Taylor on the bench, which has been the most tempting yo-yo that Hue Jackson has ever had. And the second Baker Mayfield looked like he was going to hit that rookie wall in Pittsburgh, where he just wasn't playing well, the line wasn't blocking well for him, he was getting hit too much. I think Hue Jackson went to his trusty move and said, you know what, I'm going to bench the kid and try to give the team a spark by putting in Tyrod Taylor. And that just probably pushed John Dorsey and Jimmy Haslam past their point. And then if that's what happened, it kind of makes sense that there are all these reports out there that Baker Mayfield really wasn't fond of Hue, really didn't like Hue. And if Hue Jackson tried to bench you in the middle of a game and you're Baker Mayfield, I mean, I could understand that being out there. And then also in the interview, he also mentions that while he doesn't think internal discord's why he got fired, he believes that he got fired because the organization was trying to protect Baker Mayfield, which, why would firing you protect Baker Mayfield? I mean, losing the offensive coordinator is bad enough for a rookie quarterback, let alone losing his head coach 8 games through the year. And it only starts to make sense when you look at it as, oh, Hue Jackson probably was going to try to bench him again. Now, again, this is pure speculation. I cannot confirm that this happened. This is just me being a fat ass on the couch watching the game saying, oh, I think that's what happened. So maybe that's what happened. That starts to put the pieces together around the incredibly odd situation of Hue Jackson getting fired. And Hue Jackson, I think about a week later, got hired by Cincinnati to be a special assistant to the head coach. So he went from head coach of the Browns to literally being a coach against them, who the Browns still at that point have to play 2 times before the end of the season. And if you wonder if the team misses Hue Jackson or thinks highly of Hue Jackson, listen to Demarius Randall answer this question about if the Bengals having Hue Jackson will give them an advantage.
I think that gives them an advantage.
Nah, the game is played on the field. I mean, the game is 11-on-11 up on the field, and I mean, I don't feel like, them having him over there is gonna get him no type of edge.
And that is all there is ever to say about Hue Jackson. So, thank you guys for watching this week. My name is Quincy Carrier. This is Worst Take. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and comment down below what you think of the Hue Jackson situation. And if you feel like it, go check out my other videos. Thank you guys for watching again. My name is Quincy Carrier, and I just had to tell you that Hue Jackson is full of shit.